Dare to believe. Trust God for the impossible and step out in faith. When was the last time you felt a stirring in your soul, a calling to step out into the unknown, to believe in something bigger than yourself? Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. But what does that mean in our daily lives? Faith is not just a belief, it's an action. It's the step you take when you can't see the whole staircase. It's the decision to trust in God's promises, even when the circumstances suggest otherwise. It's about believing that with God, all things are possible. Think about the story of Abraham, who was called to leave his home and go to a land he did not know. He was promised that he would be the father of many nations, even though he and his wife Sarah were old and childless. Abraham didn't know how God would fulfill his promise, but he stepped out in faith. He believed in the impossible because he trusted the God who made the promise. You may be facing a situation that seems impossible. Maybe it's a financial burden that feels too heavy to bear, a relationship that seems beyond repair, or a dream that feels too distant to reach. But I challenge you today, believe God for the impossible. Step out on faith, even when it doesn't make sense. Faith is not the absence of doubt or fear. It's moving forward despite those feelings. The disciples were in a boat during a storm, terrified. But when they saw Jesus walking on the water, Peter said, "Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water." And Jesus said, "Come." Peter stepped out of the boat and walked on water towards Jesus. But when he saw the wind and the waves, he became afraid and began to sink. Yet, even then, Jesus reached out and caught him. What can we learn from Peter? Faith doesn't mean we won't have moments of doubt or fear. But it does mean we keep our eyes on Jesus, trusting that he will catch us when we fall. It's about stepping out of the boat, even when the waves are high and the wind is strong. God often asks us to do things that don't make sense to our natural minds. He may ask us to give when we don't have enough, to forgive when we've been wronged, or to trust him when the future seems uncertain. But this is where faith comes in. It's in those moments of uncertainty and impossibility that our faith is tested and strengthened. Think of the story of David and Goliath. David was just a young shepherd boy, but he believed in the impossible. While others saw a giant too big to defeat, David saw a giant too big to miss. He stepped out on faith, armed with nothing but a sling and a few stones, believing that God would give him victory. And God did. Your giant may look different, but the principle is the same. Whatever your Goliath is, remember that God is bigger. The same God who was with David is with you. The same God who parted the Red Sea, who shut the mouths of lions, who made a way in the wilderness, is the same God who can do the impossible in your life. But stepping out on faith requires something from us. It requires us to let go of our control, to surrender our plans, and to trust in God's timing. It requires us to move, even when we're not sure where we're going. It requires us to speak, even when we're not sure who's listening. It requires us to believe, even when everything around us suggests otherwise. Faith is not passive. It's active. It's not just sitting back and waiting for God to do something. It's stepping out, even when we're not sure what the outcome will be. It's putting our trust in God, knowing that he is faithful to his promises. There's a saying, faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. What is the first step God is asking you to take today? What is the dream, the vision, the calling that he's placed on your heart? Whatever it is, I encourage you to take that step, to believe in God for the impossible. The Bible tells us that without faith, it is impossible to please God. But with faith, all things are possible. Jesus said, "If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move." Nothing will be impossible for you. So, what is the mountain in your life that needs to be moved? What is the impossibility that you're facing? Remember, it's not about the size of your faith, but the size of the God you have faith in. As we step out on faith, we may not always see immediate results. There may be delays, challenges, and obstacles along the way. But faith is trusting that God is working, even when we don't see it. It's believing that he is making a way, even when it seems impossible. I want to leave you with this: God is the God of the impossible. He specializes in doing what we cannot. But He asks us to partner with Him, to step out on faith, to trust Him, and to believe that He can and will do the impossible in our lives. So today, I challenge you to step out of the boat, to face your giants, to believe God for the impossible. Trust that He is with you, that He will catch you, and that He will fulfill His promises to you. Because with God, all things are possible.